this movie, I'm going to run through the steps for setting up a Google project. This is primarily for testing purposes and goes along with this invitations demo that I'm putting together. Um, so we get a lot of questions. It's just not super intuitive of how to set up one of these projects. So I wanted to go ahead and run through the steps here in a quick movie, the quickest way to kind of get up and running so you can start using these APIs and playing around with them. So in general, I like to set up a dedicated um, Google account kind of as an integration user when I'm doing these kind of projects. I think it just keeps everything in the same place. You don't have to worry about overlap of projects or billing or anything like that. Um, so I just set up a simple one here called seedcodeapidemo@gmail.com. You can use your existing Google account. If your company has a Google Workspace, you'll probably want to use an account within that workspace so you can make your project internal, which means that everybody within the workspace can use the project without having to go through a verification process or anything like that. So, once you set up your Google account, you're going to come here to console.cloud.google.com and make sure with this logo that you're logged into the right Google account. A lot of times Google will jump you around if you have multiple Google accounts. And then once you're in here, you're going to open up this sidebar here. This is where you're going to get started, and you're going to go to APIs and Services. And the first thing I think you want to do is enable. Actually, the first thing you need to do is create a project. So we can do it right from here, create a project, or you can do it up here as well. It's a new project. And again, since this is a standalone account, there's no organization. If you're within a Google Workspace, you'll want to specify your organization so it's a part of that. And then give it a project name. I'm just going to call this Seed Code Invitations Demo. Create it. Takes a few seconds. All right, so now I'm in the project. Let's go ahead and make sure it's selected, which it is. We see it up here. And first thing we want to do is enable the APIs that we want to use. And we'll hit Enable APIs, and here you can search for all the different ones. I've done demos on Google Drive and Gmail previously. This time, this one, everything we're going to use is going to be in the Google Calendar API. So I'm going to select that and just hit Enable API. It takes a second, and then we're all set. So now we've got our Google Calendar API, and again, that's all we need for this demo. If you wanted to do your own project with different stuff, you could explore the different APIs there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump down to this OAuth consent screen. And again, if you were within a Google Workspace, you could just type internal and make the project internal. And again, that means everybody within that workspace would be able to use it without any kind of verification process. Since this is a standalone account, I'm going to use external. And then I'm going to hit create. And again, I'll give it an app name, just seed code. This can be anything. And then the support email, I'll just use this email I set up. If you want to give it a logo, it doesn't really show up anywhere other than kind of maybe in a Google library or something. I typically don't use this. We don't need to worry about an app domain for this or an authorized domain. I do want to give developer contact information. For this, I'm just going to use my regular email. This can be anything. And then we're going to save and continue. Then we want to define our scopes. So you want to make sure you've enabled your APIs first because that determines what scopes you have here. And we're interested in two scopes here. We're interested in the calendar scope, and I'm just going to choose the regular calendar one. If you wanted to do read-only, I think that would work for this demo as well. Depending on the project, you might want to review some of these other scopes and permissions. So we're going to do that one, and then we're going to do events. This one definitely does not need to be read-only. You don't want this one to be read-only because we're going to be actually creating events on a calendar. And then I'm going to go ahead and update this. So now I've got my scopes. I think I did it. Make sure I got them. Calendar. Oh, I have to check them. That's what I forgot to do. I was going to say something didn't look right. Check that one. That's right. This is a little confusing. You need to check the box when you see it. Events and calendar. Make sure that's checked. And then we can go update. And now we can see we've got them. And they'll show up in sensitive scopes because they do require passwords. Things like maps where you don't have personal information or non-sensitive scopes. So we're not worried about that. So I've got my 2 sensitive scopes here. And now I can save and continue. Since we're going to keep this in test mode now because we don't publish it, so we will need to add users. Now, typically for a FileMaker integration, you're just going to have one account that's doing the integration back and forth. Otherwise, if people are going to be using their personal calendars or their personal email, then you would add additional test users here. Or, if it's an internal app, you don't need to worry about that. But here, we're going to do our seed code. Yeah, what's it called again? I can't remember. Seed code API demo. So I'm going to add that. Now, Google allows up to 100 test accounts. So for a lot of FileMaker solutions, you'd be able to keep that. So I've got my folks here, but you can add up to 100 testing folks. And again, so you can just leave it in test mode for a lot of FileMaker solutions without having to publish the app. So now I'm just going to say save and continue. So external, I'm in test mode, I'm in summary. So now I'm done my OAuth consent. So now I'm going to move into credentials. And what we want to do here is create an OAuth 2.0 client ID. So the way I do that is I'm going to hit create credentials up here, OAuth client ID, and then we want to choose web application because we're going to be using the web viewer to do our to authorize into the account. So I've chosen web application. You can leave the name web client 1. It doesn't really matter. That doesn't really show anywhere other than in this dev console. And then I do need an authorized redirect URI. So if you have a page you use for this, it doesn't need to do anything. It needs to be HTTPS. And this is just where the web viewer will take you after you've authorized, and then we're going to have a FileMaker script which is going to pull what it needs. So this could just be a static page. It can be your home page. It can really be anything. I have a dedicated one I use for this. You can go to the demo file that this is for and go to OAuth settings, and you can copy the one I have down here. So feel free to use this one. This will just be a quick splash of the seed code logo. And then we're going to add that here. And then we're going to say create. And now you're going to see your OAuth client is created. And then what you can go ahead and do is download the JSON file for it because we can import that directly into our demo file. So that'll go into the downloads folder. And that's it. Oh, not quite it. Now we also have to activate billing for this account. So you will need to give Google a credit card or payment information. Um, the free allocations from these Google projects are very generous. We rarely have customers, even in production, who ever get actually billed, but Google does require you to activate the billing. So you'll need to go through this steps and give payment information to actually activate the account. Once you've done that, I'm not going to go through here and show you my credit card information, but once you've done that here, then you're ready to use it in the Google account. And then I just want to show uh, here, um, I've got previous information here, but I'm going to overwrite it. You could use this button. So from the demo, you're going to hit the little gear down here, go to OAuth settings, and then hit import client ID. And then find that client secret that you just downloaded and hit insert, and we'll automatically put the ID and the secret information in there. So now you're ready to authorize, and you could hit authenticate to Google. And this one is the seed code API demo at gmail.com. Now you are going to get, because you're in test mode, you are going to get this Google hasn't verified this app. Make sure you know the developer, so that's what is fine in this case. If you ever do publish or you're working within your internal workspace, you won't have this step, it'll go, but this is fine, so you're just going to say continue. It's going to say, okay, these are the scopes we're going to use, so we're going to go ahead and click that we want to be able to look at the calendars and look at the events and edit them. And then we're going to go ahead and say continue. And we are now logged in. And if you go back here, you'll see logged in as seed code API demo at gmail.com. And we can start using the demo file. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.